2023 CFL Winter Meetings one-on-one with Montreal Alouettes General Manager Danny Maciocia, no longer the head coach, or at least interim head coach. What was that process like for you to go from GM to head coach and come very close to getting the Owls to the Grey Cup?
Well, I mean, it happened after week 4. So basically, I don't think it was ever planned that it would work out after week 4. But when I did take the sidelines, obviously I felt like we had a strong enough coaching staff. Bringing Coach Thorpe on board clearly helped us on the defensive side of the ball. So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't, stand in anybody's way. So basically, just took what we were already trying to execute on offense, on defense, and special teams, and just trying to bring a little bit more structure. What was critical for me was to have a rapport with the players. We had put in place a players committee that I met with them on a weekly basis. So we were trying to project what lays ahead, with the upcoming week, and then at the end of the week, we would obviously take a look at the week that we had and try to evaluate moving forward if we needed to make any modifications or not. So I was more like a traffic controller kind of guy with the staff and the players. But a lot of the credit goes to the players, and a lot of the credit goes to the assistant coaches, because there was buy-in, there was communication, there was a lot of exchanges, and I think that early process, which obviously wasn't easy, we were able to turn it around after, I think it was after week 8, when we were sitting at 2-6 and we had our game in Winnipeg. That's when you started to see things slowly turn around.
Yeah, and how critical was that win against the Blue Bombers in their home stadium when everybody was talking about them potentially having a perfect season?
Oh, it was critical. I mean, we played really, really well. We were able to make the plays that we needed to make, especially in the second half. Defensively, we were able to create some turnovers. We were able to get to Caleros and put him in situations of second and long. And then the kicking game obviously made a difference late in the game and into the overtime period. So in a fairly hostile environment, so we were able to deal with the elements that came with the fact that you're playing probably one of the premier teams in the CFL.
And you came really close to getting to the Grey Cup. The offseason comes. Did you have any thoughts about staying in that dual role capacity, GM and head coach?
No, just because it's. I just think it's that's a lot of work. I just think it's 2 different jobs for 2 different people, and that's the way we've always thought about being structured here in the last few years in Montreal, making sure that those 2 jobs were occupied by 2 different people. And the plan was just for me to go downstairs, get a feel for the players, get a feel for the coaches, try to right the ship a little bit. And I think for the most part, we collectively were able to do that. But the head coaching search started probably a month before the conclusion of the regular season. So we had 4 candidates internally that we were evaluating. I was evaluating them on a daily basis, and then at the conclusion of the season, I wanted to go out and talk to a few others, and here we are today.
And how did you come to that decision to hire Jason Maas after he was let go from the Saskatchewan Roughriders? Because some people were surprised that he was there, he was running that offense, they didn't want to bring him back, and then you wanted to bring him in as head coach.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I hired him, because he went through a fairly difficult year, and I watched the way he handled himself on the sideline, and I thought he was outstanding with the players. I thought he was outstanding with the media, and it's no different than what I experienced in Edmonton. I learned more about some of the failures. You learn a lot about yourself on a personal note. You learn a lot about yourself on a professional note, and that helped me build what we built at the University of Montreal while I was there for 9 years and going to 3 Vanier Cups. So that was extremely intriguing to me. And then speaking to players like Ricky Ray and Mike Riley and Trevor Harris, and I know that he's had a rapport with Henry Burris too. He's a leader of men. He's a great communicator. He's passionate, and players play hard for him. And that's what we were looking for. So as we got a little bit deeper into the interview process, and we got to the final 2, after bringing him in for a second interview, he just confirmed what we internally already knew about him, and we were comfortable with a hire.
A lot of people focused on his time in Edmonton in terms of maybe some of the antics, right? Him being very emotional, wearing those emotions on his sleeve, breaking headsets, or punching Gatorade bottles or whatever it may be. But he actually had a winning record there. He took that team to the playoffs multiple times, and in the difficult West Division. Now, before we get to sort of him as a coach, you joked about it at the press conference, but does he actually have a clause in his contract that anything he breaks, he's paying for?
Well, he doesn't have a clause, but he understands that anything he breaks, he'll pay for. But it was just a little bit of a crack that I made, just to just bring some humor to that question that was asked. But you live and learn. Those are great learning experiences. Now, I don't want that passion to ever disappear. That's one of the attraction to having him on board. That's one of the attraction that players appreciate about him, is that he's genuine. What you see is what you're going to get. There's not too much gray in his life, and people appreciate that. But there's certain things that you can possibly control, a little bit better, whether it's with the headsets, whether it's the way you handle an interview, the way you handle maybe a fan that's in your ear as you're walking into the locker room, at halftime or at the conclusion of a football game. But he's still going to wear his emotions on his sleeve. I think those experiences are only going to make him better. But we love the passion, we love the fire, and that's what we were looking for.
And to your point about watching him in Saskatchewan, nothing was broken all year.
Nothing, and that should speak volumes as far as what he experienced in Edmonton and everything that he went through in Saskatchewan, which was so much more difficult, and yet he kept his cool and his composure, but he still coached with passion and that emotion. The players felt it on a daily basis, and that's based on some of the players that I spoke to throughout the last few years that have had some sort of affiliation with Jason Maas. So no, this was I was quite comfortable with the hire, and he surrounded himself with a pretty good staff. So we're looking forward to 2023 here.
Did his relationship with Trevor Harris tilt that decision one way or another, like in terms of trying to help get Harris re-signed?
No, we want Trevor, and we would have made a run for Trevor regardless of whether we would have gone with Jason or not. Does it help? Clearly, it helps. Is it a foregone conclusion? No, it's not. So we're still negotiating. There's still a lot of back and forth. I think it's a good marriage, the two being together. They've had a ton of success together. Trevor wants to win a Grey Cup as a starting quarterback. Jason wants to win a Grey Cup as a head coach. And I'd like to win a Grey Cup as a general manager. Neither one of us has been able to do so in those respective roles. So there's mutual respect there. There's already a template in place that we can build off of. There's a foundation that's been laid, and now it's just a question of getting all parties together and trying to take it to the next step.
In terms of negotiations with Harris, are you guys close? Are you far apart? Do you see a deal getting done before free agency comes?
Well, I'm confident that we're going to get something done before free agency. I'm extremely hopeful. I'm not saying we're far. I'm not saying we're close. There's dialogue. There's communication. It's genuine the way how we feel about one another. He wants to be in Montreal. We want him in Montreal. We're going to put our best foot forward to make it happen, and we hope it will happen. If it doesn't, then we're going to have to go to a plan B. But right now, we're not even contemplating plan B. We're hopeful that this will come to fruition here in the next little while.
There's been a lot going on with the franchise since you've come over there in terms of the ownership and even the president, Mario Cecchini, coming in and now leaving. How have you been able to put a team on the field that came very close to getting to a Grey Cup while dealing with some of those potential distractions?
Well, I mean, it's far from being ideal. So obviously those are distractions that we knew were there. But I will say this about ownership, especially as far as just as far as the estate, as far as Gary Stern is concerned, they've been extremely supportive. It hasn't affected us on the field. Clearly, these are situations that we experienced in 22. We don't want to experience them moving forward. We don't need that type of distraction. We want the focus to be on the players and on the product on the field, and hopefully that'll be the case here with the upcoming season. But it shouldn't prevent us or prohibit us from putting a competitive team on the field.
Are you aware of any potential sale or change in ownership? Locally, it seems like that's where the majority owners really focus, is getting someone local.
No, I'm not aware. And I just don't want to relive what I relived in 2019. I just want to be focused with the job at hand. And God knows we got so much work that I can't, really spend too much time as far as the ownership picture is concerned. I'm going to leave that in the capable hands of the people that are running the club right now at that level. And I'm sure they're going to do what's best for the organization.
And Gary Stern's a minority owner. He's been very outspoken on Twitter. He's guaranteed wins. He's very passionate about his team. Are you all right with that, or do you prefer the sort of quieter version of Stern?
Well, it's not my style, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that, just because I don't necessarily, subscribe to that type of activity on social media that, everybody's got to feel the same way. He's got his particular style. He feels like, he wants to connect with people, which there's nothing wrong with it. My focus is clearly on the coaches, the players, and trying to put the best product on the football field. So everybody's got their way of doing business. And maybe, you need several different people that have their ways of operating to come together and to push forward. But I don't, whatever is said on Twitter, those are his words. They belong to him. Is it a distraction? Is it a problem within the organization? It didn't affect us winning or losing any games last year. Put it this way.
Can that create bulletin board material for your opponent?
If you need that kind of material, then I think you've got other issues. Personally speaking, I don't think it adds. And he said it every single week, so we were still able to win half of our games. So we control what I'd like to think that we're the ones that control the outcome on the football field by the way we prepare and by the way we play.
You step back from the head coach's role, and you're a bit of a visionary. That's the way that I saw you at the University of Montreal. You're in the GM role now. Can you ever envision yourself being the president of this team?
Not right now, not at 55, maybe down the road, possibly. I'm just a guy that wants to be closer to players and to the coaches. I want to be on I want to be on the football side of it and spend as much time trying to build a football team. And hopefully part of my legacy is that, I'm going to be able to leave behind an organization that's going to be much better than what I originally found when I left the University of Montreal and I signed on with the Montreal Alouettes. There's so much good that's happening in the province of Quebec right now with football. It's alive and kicking at so many different levels. And, we just want to provide as many opportunities as possible to those players, to those coaches moving forward. And that hopefully will be my legacy moving forward.
And Andre Bolduc was involved in that head coaching process. He's now gone to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and he made some public comments feeling that the head coaching position was sort of predetermined. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. Have you spoken to him since, or why do you feel
absolutely.
Like he feels that way?
I've spoken to him several times. Andre had a great interview, but so did AC, and so did Bernard Archambault, and so did Noel Thorpe. Nothing was predetermined. Actually, it took us a little bit longer than we first anticipated, just because there was a lot of back and forth. And Mario Cecchini was in the process of the interview process, because we had the community piece and we had the football piece. So Mario obviously led in the community piece. So there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of exchanges, and that's why it took the time that it took in order for us to come to the conclusion that that we came to. But Andre, I coached Andre in Montreal. He was a receiver / fullback, and when I coached him there, and he went on to have a pretty good career as a head coach at the University of Sherbrooke. He was also at the University of Montreal as an assistant coach. He's been there for 8-9 years. He's gone through so many offensive coordinators and head coaches there the last 8-9 years. And he felt that at this stage in his career, with kids that are a little bit older, that this would have been the great opportunity for him to live something a little bit different. It's not to say that he can't ever come back or be a head coach somewhere else, but at this stage, of where we're at as an organization, the best fit was Jason Maas.
Arguably, the other big free agent that you have is Eugene Lewis. He's proved himself to be one of the top receivers in the league, has a great rapport with Trevor Harris, who you talked about and you're hoping to re-sign before free agency. Where are things at in terms of negotiations with him?
I just met Gino on Sunday. We spent 2 hours in my office. We exchanged on how we view things moving forward. I think Gino wants to be in Montreal. I can tell you that we want him in Montreal. Now it's just trying to find that happy medium. How do we get him? How do we get a contract signed where he's happy with it and we're happy with it? But the communication is there. We speak on a regular basis. We exchange texts, and there is a willingness for it to work. But there's still some work to be done.
Is he living in Montreal?
As we speak, yes. I think he's going to be in Montreal for about another month or so. I'm actually probably going to see him on Friday when I get back to Montreal again. He enjoys the city. I know he does some traveling because he's got a lot of family back home. But I know that he enjoys Montreal, and my understanding is that that's where he wants to be now. Can we make it happen?
Do you want to get Trevor or Eugene signed so they can go and help you recruit the other guy?
Yeah, that would be the way to go, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't matter who I get signed first, but if I can get them, what would be ideal is if we can get them both signed at the same time and have an announcement that we're going to have them both back. But listen, this is just part of the process. Every team goes through it. Every couple of years when their so-called impact star players, franchise players are free and are available. There's just that a little bit of that uncertainty that lasts for a few weeks, but there's a willingness there to get something done, and hopefully that'll be the case here in the next little while.
We'll be watching to find out. Thanks for sharing some time with us, Danny.
Thank you.